The vast galaxy was home to countless civilizations, each thriving in their own corner of space, creating alliances, building towering cities, and advancing their technologies. However, beyond the known territories, far on the edge of the galaxy, there was a planet that had been all but forgotten. The planet, once a shining example of advanced life, was now a desolate, ruined world. Its name was Zilia. Zilia had once been the home of the Xylan, an intelligent and peaceful alien race. They were known throughout the galaxy for their brilliant minds, vast knowledge of energy manipulation, and their ability to transform barren lands into fertile ground. For centuries, they had lived in harmony with their planet, mastering the secrets of nature and technology. Their cities were marvels of architecture, floating high above the ground, powered by clean energy. The Xylan had a deep connection to their environment, understanding it in ways that no other species could. But that was long ago. Now, all that remained of the Xylan was a scattered, fragile population living in the ruins of their former cities. Their once great civilization had collapsed after a devastating war with a ruthless intergalactic empire. The Xylan had been left to rebuild on their own, but no one came to their aid. The universe moved on, ignoring the plight of a race that was now seen as a lost cause. It was on a routine exploration mission that humanity first stumbled upon Zilia, a small human fleet sent to map uncharted parts of the galaxy, came across the planet while scanning nearby star systems. The captain of the lead ship, Captain Elena Vasquez, looked out over the surface of Zilia as the planet appeared on her ship's monitors. The once glorious cities were nothing but rubble, and the skies were filled with the haze of a planet in distress. "There's something strange about this planet," Captain Vasquez remarked as she stared at the screen. "Look at the energy readings. It's almost as if there's still life here." Her crew was puzzled. Why would a planet so obviously abandoned have such unusual energy patterns? It didn't make sense. The planet was clearly not in its prime, yet there was something beneath the surface that was still very much alive. Curiosity pushed them forward. The humans sent a small team down to the planet's surface to investigate. As they touched down in a vast, empty landscape, they found themselves surrounded by silent ruins. The air was thick with the scent of decay, but there was also an undeniable energy, a sense that this place had once been full of life. The team set out to explore the remnants of the Xylan's grand cities. What they found shocked them. The architecture was far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. Giant structures, designed with such intricate beauty, were now falling apart. The streets, once lined with plants and flowing with clean energy, were now cracked and overgrown. But it wasn't just the buildings that intrigued the humans. It was the technology hidden within them. "We need to take a closer look at this," one of the engineers, Dr. Liam Carter, said as he examined a strange energy source embedded in the wall of a crumbling building. "This looks like something we've never seen before. It's still active." The humans continued to explore, uncovering signs of the Xylan's once great achievements. They discovered ancient artifacts, powerful tools, and records of a culture that had been rich in knowledge and spirit. But as they dug deeper into the ruins, they also found something else, a story of betrayal. The humans uncovered an old library, a repository of the Xylan's most valuable knowledge. The records inside told of a race that had once been hailed as one of the greatest in the galaxy. But the Xylan had suffered a great tragedy. They had been abandoned by the other civilizations of the galaxy when the war with the Zifor Empire had decimated their people. The galaxy had turned its back on them, leaving them to fend for themselves. No one had come to help. No one had cared. Captain Vasquez stood in the center of the library, reading through the ancient texts, her heart heavy with the weight of what she had discovered. How could they have been left like this? She whispered to herself. Why didn't anyone come to help them? Her team had no answers. They had come to explore, to map the stars, but they had found something far more profound. They had found a race that had been forgotten, a race that had been abandoned by the universe. Yet there was still hope. The Thailand were not extinct. They were still alive, scattered across the planet, fighting to survive in the ruins of their once great civilization. "We can't just leave them," Captain Vasquez said firmly. "We have to help them rebuild. We can't let their story end like this." Her decision was met with surprise. The other civilizations of the galaxy had turned away from the Thailand. But the humans were different. They believed in second chances, in redemption. They knew the galaxy had a responsibility to the races that had once contributed so much. And so, a new chapter began. Humanity had found that X-Island, and they weren't about to let them be forgotten again. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity for the human crew. Captain Elena Vasquez and her team had made the decision to stay on Zilia, determined to help the Thailand rebuild their world. But as they explored further, they realized just how much work it would take to restore this broken planet. The humans worked tirelessly, carefully studying the remnants of the Thailand's technology. They were astounded by what they found, that X-Island had mastered energy manipulation to an extent that was far beyond anything humanity had ever achieved. Solar panels made from rare materials, energy conduits buried deep beneath the surface, and even advanced climate control systems. Everything was interconnected. That X-Island had not only lived in harmony with their environment, but they had actively improved it. Their cities had once been powered by clean, renewable energy, with no need for pollution or waste. But now much of the technology was damaged or inactive. Still, there were signs that some systems were still running, albeit weakly. Dr. Liam Carter, the human engineer, had been fascinated by the energy sources they found. He spent hours each day attempting to understand the alien machinery. "This technology, it's incredible," Liam said as he inspected a dormant energy generator. "It's almost as if they designed it to last forever. But something must have gone wrong, and now we're the ones who need to fix it." That island, once proud of their accomplishments, were now scattered across the planet, struggling to survive. Their numbers had dwindled over time, and the survivors lived in small communities, hidden in the remnants of their cities. They had lost so much: families, friends, entire generations. It was hard to believe that the X-Island, with all their knowledge and power, had once been the dominant force in the galaxy. Captain Vasquez, ever determined, met with the Thailand leaders to discuss their next steps. Though the Thailand were cautious and hesitant, they slowly began to open up to the humans. It was clear they had suffered for so long that they had grown used to the idea of surviving alone. Trusting outsiders wasn't easy, especially after the betrayal they had experienced from the rest of the galaxy. "Why do you want to help us?" The leader of the Thailand, a wise elder named Draxel, asked with a voice filled with skepticism. "The galaxy has abandoned us. Why should we believe that you, humans, will be any different?" Captain Vasquez looked at Draxel, her eyes filled with sincerity. "We're not like the others. We believe in second chances. We believe that every life, no matter how small or forgotten, deserves a future." It was a simple answer, but it struck a chord with Draxel. He had seen so much pain, so many years of struggle, and the idea that the humans would offer them a chance to rebuild was almost too good to believe. Yet there was something about Captain Vasquez's words that made him think that maybe, just maybe, there was still hope for that island. Over the next few weeks, the humans and Cylon worked side by side, carefully studying the technology they had uncovered. The X-Island shared what little knowledge they had left, and the humans taught them new techniques, including ways to harness the power of the planet's natural resources in a more sustainable way. It wasn't an easy process, and there were many setbacks, but small victories began to emerge. One day, after weeks of trial and error, Dr. Carter was able to activate one of the planet's ancient solar fields. It was a moment of triumph, as a huge portion of the Cylon's capital city suddenly lit up, the buildings once again bathed in soft light. The X-Island gathered to watch in awe, their faces illuminated by the glow of their rejuvenated world. "This is only the beginning," Captain Vasquez said, standing beside Dr. Carter, her voice filled with hope. "We have the technology, and we have the will. Together, we can bring your world back to life." The Xylan looked on, their expressions mixed with awe and disbelief. For so long, they had believed that their civilization was doomed to be a forgotten memory. Now, in front of them, they saw the first signs of a new dawn. It wasn't just the lights or the machines that sparked their hope. It was the humans' determination to help them, to stand by them when no one else would. But as hope began to bloom, the harsh reality of their situation began to set in. While the humans had made incredible progress in restoring the planet's technology, it was clear that there was still much to be done. The Xylan society had fractured over time, and many of the old traditions and knowledge had been lost. The scars of war and abandonment ran deep. Captain Vasquez knew that restoring the Xylan would take more than just technology. It would take time, patience, and most importantly, trust. But she was determined to see it through. She had made a promise to the Xylan, and she wasn't about to break it. "We're in this together," she said to Draxel as they stood watching the lights flicker to life in the distance. "You've already taken the first step. Now we move forward, side by side." For the first time in many years, Draxel allowed himself to believe in that possibility. The humans had not abandoned them. And maybe, just maybe, there was still a future for the Xylan after all. News of the humans' efforts on Zilia spread quickly across the galaxy. While many civilizations had long since forgotten the Xylan, the actions of humanity had not gone unnoticed. The Galactic Council, a group made up of the most powerful species in the universe, was keenly aware of every major event that occurred in their domain. The Council's primary goal was to maintain order across the galaxy, and they saw the humans' involvement with the Xylan as a potential disruption to that order. The Council's headquarters were located on a massive space station known as Citadel Prime, floating high above a neutral planet at the center of the galaxy. Representatives from every major race in the galaxy met there, discussing everything from trade routes to planetary disputes. This was where decisions were made, and where disagreements could quickly lead to consequences. When the news reached Citadel Prime that the humans had made contact with the Xylan and were actively helping them rebuild their world, it caused an uproar among the council members. Most were confused, while others were concerned. That Xylan had been abandoned for a reason, and no one had attempted to help them for centuries. Why were the humans suddenly so interested? A council session was called, with representatives from the dominant species of the galaxy present. The room was filled with beings from all corners of the universe. Tall, elegant Elvarian diplomats with skin that shimmered like starlight, the gruff and imposing Torshek warriors, and the tech-savvy Kristar, whose eyes glowed with the light of their artificial intelligence. At the front of the room stood the chairperson, a dignified figure known as Athrian, a being of ancient age and vast wisdom, who represented the combined interests of countless worlds. The room fell silent as Athrian spoke, his voice calm but authoritative. "We are all aware of the situation on Zilia. Humanity has taken it upon themselves to interfere with the Xylan's recovery. It is clear that the Xylan are not the threat they once were, but we must question the motives of the humans. Why engage with a race that has no future in this galaxy?" One of the Kristar representatives, a sleek figure with a metallic body, spoke up. "The Xylan are a dead civilization. No one has ever come to their aid. And no one should. They had their chance. Humanity's involvement will only stir up old tensions and bring unwanted attention." A Torshik representative growled in agreement. "The galaxy has moved on from the Xylan. Let them remain in the past. The humans will learn that their actions will only bring trouble." Captain Vasquez, still on Zilia, had no idea the Galactic Council was watching their every move. She was too focused on helping the Xylan to consider the political ramifications. Yet, she had heard rumors of an approaching diplomatic response from the Council. She knew the galaxy's leaders would not be pleased by humanity's interference. Back on Citadel Prime, the debate raged on for hours. Some representatives argued that humanity's actions were a sign of compassion and hope, a refreshing change in the galaxy. Others believed it was simply a waste of resources. After all, what would the Thailand contribute to the galaxy now? The Thailand had no trade value, no military power, and no interest in galactic politics. They were seen as a relic of the past. However, there was one voice in the room that had the power to influence the others. It belonged to a young representative from the planet Solara, named Raya. Solara was a peaceful, idealistic species, and they had always believed in the value of helping others, no matter how small or insignificant they seemed. Raya, who had watched the humans' progress with the Thailand from afar, stood up to address the council. "I disagree," Raya said, her voice steady yet passionate. "The Thailand may not be a threat, but they were once part of our galaxy. We cannot simply ignore them because they no longer serve our interests. Humanity has shown something that we have lost: compassion. If we ignore this, we are not only abandoning the Thailand, but we are abandoning the very ideals that make this galaxy worth protecting." Her words silenced the room. For the first time, the council members found themselves questioning their long-held beliefs. Was it truly right to leave the Xylan to fade away, simply because they no longer held power? Was there no place for compassion in their galaxy anymore? Athrian, the chairperson, raised a hand, signaling the end of the debate. "I will allow the humans to continue their efforts on Zilia, but with one condition. They must report back to the council regularly and ensure that their actions do not disturb the balance of the galaxy. If their intervention causes any harm, the council will take action." The council members murmured in agreement, and a sense of finality settled over the room. The humans would be allowed to help the Island, but they would be watched closely. On Zilia, Captain Vasquez and her team received word of the council's decision. She understood that the galaxy's leaders were skeptical of their mission, but it didn't change her resolve. The X-Island needed their help, and she would continue to fight for them, no matter what the council said. "We'll show them," Captain Vasquez said, speaking to her team as they gathered in the command center. "The Thailand are worth saving, and we're going to prove it to the galaxy." Her words echoed in the hearts of the crew. They knew the road ahead would be difficult, but they also knew that humanity had something the galaxy had long forgotten: the ability to care. And with that, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The decision by the Galactic Council was only the beginning of a new chapter for both humanity and the Thailand. While Captain Elena Vasquez and her crew were relieved to have the Council's approval, the real work was just beginning. The road ahead was uncertain, and the challenges they faced were many. Restoring Zilia and rebuilding the Xylan civilization would require more than just advanced technology. It would require trust, cooperation, and time. The humans had worked alongside the Thailand for weeks now, helping them restore power to their cities, fix their energy systems, and reintroduce life to their dying world. Yet the real challenge lay not in technology, but in the healing of a broken people. The X-Island had suffered for centuries. Their cities were in ruins, and their once great culture had been fractured. Many X-Island had lost hope, and trust in outsiders was scarce. One of the most difficult tasks for Captain Vasquez and her crew was bridging the gap between the X-Island and their own people. The humans had a deep respect for the X-Island's history, but the Thailand were wary of the humans' intentions. They had learned long ago not to trust anyone, and they were not eager to open their hearts to the strangers who had arrived from another star system. Draxel, the wise elder who led the X-Island, had been hesitant at first, but he had begun to see something in the humans that he had not expected: genuine care. Every day, Captain Vasquez and her team worked tirelessly to rebuild, not for glory or recognition, but because they believed that the X-Island deserved a future. Draxel had seen many things in his long life, but the kindness of the humans was unlike anything he had encountered before. One day, as Captain Vasquez stood in front of a large repair station, watching a group of Thailand work alongside human engineers, she felt a sense of accomplishment. There were still many challenges to face, but for the first time in a long time, there was hope. "We've made progress. Dr. Liam Carter said, joining her. "The energy systems are nearly back online, and we've even repaired some of the old transport routes." "I know," Captain Vasquez replied, her eyes scanning the horizon. "But the Ihlan are still struggling. They've lost so much, and rebuilding their society isn't just about fixing machines. It's about helping them rediscover who they are, what they stand for." Dr. Carter nodded in agreement. "It's going to take time, but I think they're beginning to believe in it again. We're showing them that they don't have to be alone anymore." Captain Vasquez smiled. "We're not just rebuilding their cities, we're rebuilding their hope." As the days passed, the Ihlan began to open up more. They started to participate in rebuilding their communities, sharing stories of their past, their culture, and their dreams for the future. The humans learned much from the Ihlan, and the Ihlan, in turn, began to trust the humans more. One evening, as the sun set over the now revitalized city, Draxel invited Captain Vasquez and her crew to a gathering. The Ihlan had prepared a feast, a symbol of their gratitude. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and warmth, and for the first time in years, the Ihlan seemed at peace. "We have much to thank you for," Draxel said, standing before the gathered crowd. "You have brought light to our world once again, and with it, the possibility of a future." Captain Vasquez stood and addressed the crowd, her voice filled with emotion. "We didn't come here for fame or recognition. We came because we believe that every civilization deserves a chance. That Ihlan were once a great people, and we're honored to help you rise again." The crowd cheered, and for a moment, it felt as if the entire world was united in the same purpose. That Ihlan had found hope, and the humans had found purpose. Together, they would forge a new future, one where both species could thrive. But not everyone in the galaxy was pleased with the alliance between humanity and the Ihlan. The Galactic Council, despite their approval of humanity's actions, was still watching closely. They had their own concerns about the potential impact this new alliance could have on the balance of power in the galaxy. Some members feared that the Ihlan's resurgence might lead to a shift in influence, while others worried about the unforeseen consequences of resurrecting a once powerful civilization. The humans and the Ihlan were unaware of the growing tensions among the council members. The council had agreed to let humanity help, but they had their own agenda, one that did not always align with the best interests of the Ihlan. On Zilia, the work continued. The humans and the Ihlan built, restored, and healed, their efforts slowly transforming the once barren planet into a vibrant world once again. The Ihlan were rediscovering their identity, reconnecting with their culture, and looking forward to the future with renewed hope. Yet, Captain Vasquez knew that their mission was far from over. They had only just begun to repair the damage caused by centuries of neglect. The Ihlan had suffered, but with the help of the humans, they had begun to rise from the ashes. "We'll keep going," Captain Vasquez whispered to herself as she watched the Ihlan work alongside the humans, rebuilding their world. "There's still so much to do, but we'll do it together." And so, the path to unity began. The humans and the Ihlan were no longer strangers. They were allies. And in the vast galaxy, where so many races had been left behind, they had found each other, and in doing so, had discovered that the greatest strength lay not in power, but in the bond they shared. Life on Zilia was changing rapidly. The humans and the Ihlan had made incredible strides in rebuilding the planet. The cities were starting to come alive again, with people working together, side by side, in ways that seemed impossible just months ago. The energy systems were stable, transportation routes were functioning, and new crops were being grown. The Ihlan had rediscovered hope, and so had the humans. Yet, beneath the surface of this new unity, there was something unsettling. As the days passed, strange things began to happen. Equipment would suddenly malfunction, systems would shut down for no apparent reason, and mysterious energy surges would occur throughout the planet. Captain Vasquez had noticed the changes, but she had dismissed them as minor technical glitches. However, the problems grew worse. One morning, as the sun rose over the rejuvenated cityscape, Captain Vasquez was called to the command center. Dr. Liam Carter was already there, his face tight with concern. "Captain, something's wrong," Dr. Carter said as soon as she entered the room. "I've been analyzing the energy systems, and there are signs of interference. It's not just random malfunctions. Something, or someone, seems to be intentionally disrupting our efforts." Captain Vasquez's brow furrowed. "What do you mean, intentionally?" Dr. Carter turned a monitor toward her, displaying a series of energy readings. "These spikes aren't normal. They're coming from the planet's core. And they're not natural. Someone is hacking into our systems." Captain Vasquez leaned forward, studying the data. The energy surges were coming from deep within Zilia's core, from an area they had yet to explore fully. It was a part of the planet that had once been the center of Xylan civilization, a place of great technological advancement. But now, it was abandoned, forgotten. "We need to investigate," Captain Vasquez said, standing up decisively. "There's something down there that's causing these disruptions. We can't risk it getting worse." Dr. Carter nodded. "I'll gather the team and prepare the equipment. But we need to be careful. If this is some sort of sabotage, we don't know what we're dealing with." Meanwhile, Draxel, the leader of the Xylan, had also noticed the strange events. His people had always been in tune with the planet's energy, and they were disturbed by the sudden changes. Draxel met with Captain Vasquez, his face grave. "Captain, I have a deep sense of unease," Draxel said. "The planet's heart has always been stable, but now something stirs within it. The old legends speak of a force that could awaken if the balance was disturbed. But we never thought it would happen." Captain Vasquez listened carefully, sensing that this was more than just a technical issue. "What do the legends say?" Draxel hesitated for a moment before answering. "Long ago, before the fall of our civilization, that Xylan created a powerful weapon. It was designed to protect us from external threats. But in the end, it became a force we could not control. We sealed it away deep within the planet, hoping it would never be used. But now, I fear it has awoken." The weight of Draxel's words hung in the air. A weapon. A force created by the Xylan themselves, now threatening to rise once again. Captain Vasquez knew that they needed to find out what was going on before it was too late. "We'll investigate," Captain Vasquez said, her voice firm. "But we'll need to work together, humans and Xylan. This is no longer just a matter of technology. It's a matter of survival." With the plan in place, the team gathered their equipment and prepared for the journey. They would venture deep beneath the surface of Zilia, into the forgotten depths of the planet. It would be dangerous, but they had no choice. As they descended into the planet's core, the air grew thick with tension. The deeper they went, the more the energy readings spiked. The Xylan's ancient technology was still intact, but it had been hidden for centuries, buried beneath layers of rock and dust. It was clear that this was not just a forgotten place. It was a place of power. After hours of navigating narrow tunnels and ancient corridors, they finally reached the heart of the disturbance. In the center of a massive chamber, a strange machine hummed with energy. It was like nothing the humans had ever seen before. It was ancient, yet still pulsing with an eerie light, as if it were alive. "This is it," Dr. Carter said, awe and fear in his voice. "The source of the energy surges. But what is it?" Draxel stepped forward, his face pale. "This is the weapon we sealed away. It was designed to protect us, but it grew too powerful. It could destroy entire planets if it were activated." Captain Vasquez's mind raced. "Is it activated now?" Draxel nodded grimly. "I fear so. The energy surges we've been experiencing, they are the result of the weapon trying to wake up. And if it fully activates, we have to stop it." Captain Vasquez interrupted, her voice resolute. Dr. Carter began to analyze the machine, looking for a way to shut it down. I think I can reverse the energy flow, but it will take time. We need to keep the system stable until I can figure it out. The room was thick with tension as the humans and the Thailand worked together to prevent the weapon from fully awakening. The future of their world, and possibly the entire galaxy, was now in their hands. The chamber was filled with a tense silence, broken only by the hum of the ancient machine. Captain Vasquez stood beside Dr. Carter, her eyes scanning the complex system in front of them. The weight of the situation pressed down on them. If the weapon were to fully activate, it could destroy not only Zilia, but potentially send shockwaves across the galaxy. There was no time to waste. Dr. Carter worked quickly, his fingers flying across the console as he tried to reverse the flow of energy. The machine was ancient, built long before humanity, or that Xylan had even imagined a weapon like this. Its design was almost organic, as though it had a life of its own. He could feel the power surging through the system, unstable and unpredictable. The readings were off the charts, and every moment the energy increased, threatening to spiral out of control. We need to act fast, Dr. Carter muttered under his breath. If we don't stabilize it, we won't be able to stop it in time. Captain Vasquez turned to Draxel, who had remained at the entrance to the chamber, his face grim. The Xylan leader had seen this kind of destruction before, but this time he was powerless to prevent it. His people had created this weapon, hoping it would never be used. Now, it was a ticking time bomb. We can't let this happen again, Draxel said quietly, his voice filled with regret. We built this weapon to protect ourselves, but we didn't understand its true potential. If it's allowed to fully awaken, it could change everything. Captain Vasquez nodded. She understood the stakes. If this weapon was not stopped, the galaxy might never be the same again. But they weren't alone. Humanity and the Thailand had come together to rebuild Zilia. Now they needed to unite once more to prevent a catastrophe. Dr. Carter, how much time do we have? Captain Vasquez asked, her tone steady but urgent. Dr. Carter's face was pale as he studied the energy readings. We're running out of time. If I can't stabilize the core, the weapon will become fully active within the next few hours. Captain Vasquez turned to the rest of the team, who were standing at the ready, waiting for orders. We need to secure the chamber and protect Dr. Carter while he works. We can't let anything interrupt him. The crew moved into position, setting up shields and scanning the area for any signs of danger. They were prepared for anything, but they had no idea what they might face if the weapon fully activated. The air in the chamber felt heavy, as if the machine itself was aware of their presence, its energy swirling like a storm ready to break. As Dr. Carter worked, the energy surges grew more erratic. The chamber walls began to vibrate, and strange noises echoed from deep within the planet. It felt as if the entire world was shaking. Captain Vasquez gripped her weapon, ready for anything. The safety of Zilia, and possibly the entire galaxy, depended on the next few hours. Draxel stepped forward, his expression one of quiet resolve. We Xylan failed to control this power once before. We cannot afford to fail again. Captain Vasquez met his gaze, her voice firm. We won't fail. We've come too far to let it all fall apart now. The tension in the air grew thicker, and every second felt like an eternity. Dr. Carter had managed to slow the flow of energy, but it wasn't enough. He needed to completely stabilize the core, and the longer it took, the more unstable the machine became. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. The walls of the chamber cracked, and an explosion of energy blasted out from the machine, sending shockwaves through the room. The team was thrown off balance, and alarms blared throughout the chamber. We've lost containment, Dr. Carter shouted, scrambling to maintain control. It's overloading. We need to shut it down now. Captain Vasquez rushed forward, her mind racing. She knew they were running out of options. The weapon was now on the verge of full activation, and if it reached that point, there would be no stopping it. She glanced at Draxel. Is there any way to disable it from the inside? She asked urgently. Draxel's face was filled with concern. There is one last way. The control center is embedded deep within the core of the machine. If one of us can get inside and manually shut it down, we can stop the energy flow. But the process is extremely dangerous. The core is unstable. Captain Vasquez didn't hesitate. I'll do it. Without another word, she ran toward the heart of the machine. The team moved to cover her as she made her way through the debris and unstable ground. Every step felt like a lifetime, but she didn't stop. The fate of the planet and the galaxy was on her shoulders. When she reached the core, she saw the control panel, glowing with bright, unstable energy. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, and the power emanating from it was overwhelming. Her hands shook as she approached, but she knew there was no turning back. As she prepared to enter the code that could shut down the machine, a strange thought crossed her mind. Was it possible that the weapon had been meant for something more? Was this the key to Zilia's past, a power they had never fully understood? But there was no time for questions. Captain Vasquez entered the code, and the machine gave a loud mechanical roar. The energy surged violently, but this time it began to slow. The hum of the machine dimmed, and the shaking of the chamber ceased. Captain Vasquez stood in the heart of the machine, her breath coming in heavy gasps. She had done it. The weapon was deactivated. But as she turned to leave, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much greater challenge. The galaxy was watching, and what they had just uncovered on Zilia was far from over. The danger had passed. The ancient weapon that had threatened to destroy Zilia and possibly the entire galaxy was now deactivated. The chamber was still, its humming energy now reduced to a soft, almost peaceful glow. Captain Vasquez stood before the machine, her hands still trembling from the intensity of what had just occurred. It had been a close call, but they had done it. Zilia was safe. For now, she took a deep breath and turned to leave the control center. The mission was far from over, but this victory had given them hope. They had prevented the weapon from activating, but there was still so much they needed to learn about the machine and about the Thailand's past. What had they created, and why had it been hidden away for so long? The questions lingered in Captain Vasquez's mind, but there was no time to answer them yet. As she made her way back to the surface, Draxel was waiting for her, his face filled with relief. "You did it," he said, his voice filled with awe. "You stopped it." Captain Vasquez nodded. "We did it together. The humans and the Thailand." Draxel's eyes softened as he looked at the team that had helped save his people. "I have never seen anything like this before. You have shown my people that we are not alone. And perhaps for the first time in centuries, we can look to the future with hope." That Thailand had been lost for so long, and now they were finding their way again. It wasn't just about rebuilding their cities or restoring their technology. It was about rebuilding their trust in themselves and in others. The humans had helped them do that. Captain Vasquez could see it in the eyes of the Thailand. Their belief in a brighter future was slowly returning. The devastation of the past was not so easily forgotten, but the possibility of healing had never felt more real. Back at the command center, Dr. Carter and the rest of the crew were busy analyzing the data they had gathered. Despite their victory, the mysteries of Zilia's ancient technology were far from solved. They had only scratched the surface of what lay beneath the planet's surface. The machine they had deactivated was just one part of something much larger, something that could change everything. "Captain, we've made some breakthroughs," Dr. Carter said as she entered the room. "The data from the weapon is revealing more than we expected. It looks like that Thailand weren't just using it for defense. It may have been part of an ancient network, something designed to connect worlds across the galaxy." Captain Vasquez frowned. "You mean to say that this machine wasn't just a weapon? It was a tool for something bigger?" Dr. Carter nodded. "Exactly. This technology is connected to something far more ancient, far more powerful than we imagined. We believe that Thailand created a network that could have linked different civilizations, possibly even galaxies. But something went wrong, and they sealed it all away. Draxel, who had joined them, listened intently. That network, it could explain why we were so isolated for so long. We had no idea the true extent of our civilization's reach. Captain Vasquez thought for a moment. The implications of this discovery were enormous. If the Zilan had once been able to communicate with other civilizations across the galaxy, what else could they have achieved? What had happened to the network, and why had it been shut down? "Do you think it's still active?" Captain Vasquez asked, her voice tinged with both excitement and caution. Dr. Carter's eyes gleamed with the possibility. "There's a chance it could be. We've only begun to understand the technology, but if we can access it, we might be able to restore the network. And who knows what else we could find." Draxel looked at the humans, a new sense of purpose in his eyes. "If what you say is true, then we have the opportunity to reconnect with the galaxy. We could learn from others, share knowledge, and rebuild what was lost. But we must be careful. The power we have uncovered could change everything." Captain Vasquez agreed. "We need to move forward, but we have to do it cautiously. The power we've discovered is immense, and we don't fully understand its consequences. We'll need to work together to explore it, step by step." As the team continued to examine the data, a new sense of determination settled over them. The future was uncertain, but they were no longer alone in facing it. The humans and the Thailand had forged a bond, one that was strong enough to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had proven that even in the darkest times, there was always hope. And together, they would rebuild not just Zilia, but the future of the galaxy itself. Captain Vasquez looked out over the planet, her thoughts filled with possibilities. Zilia was no longer the abandoned, forgotten world it had once been. It was a beacon of hope, a symbol of what could be accomplished when two civilizations came together for a common cause. "We've only just begun," she whispered to herself, her voice filled with resolve. "But this is the start of something much bigger." And so, as the sun set over the rejuvenated world of Zilia, Captain Vasquez and her team stood ready to face whatever came next. The galaxy had been changed forever, and humanity and the Thailand had set a new course for the future, one filled with promise, discovery, and the unshakable belief that together they could accomplish anything.